professional road cycling is a team sport, and you're part of a team. No matter how good you are, no matter how much of a winner you are part of a team, and you need a team. That's probably why he's more at ease in mountain biking and cyclocross, because that's individual sport. You need a small team around you of people who help you, but in the race, you're on your own.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Move Plus. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan Bruyneel. We are going through the topics of the week, including but not limited to Tom Pidcock's interview at Rouleur Live, the Belgian cycling coach situation, Tadej Pogačar claiming he wants to be better in 2025 than 2024. Help us all if that's true, as well as Astana's situation and some reader questions. If you want to have your question read by Johan Bruyneel, please email us at info@wedo.team. But Johan, Tom Pidcock at Rouleur Live yesterday. I don't know if you've been aware, but there have been a few stories coming out recently about the situation at Ineos and between Tom Pidcock, Steve Cummings. Steve Cummings, we covered it, I think it was last week or the week before, officially left the team. I was at the event. I thought that.
How is that? How is that event, Spencer? What's it like?
It's good. It's very hip. It feels like a little overly hip, if I'm giving my honest assessment.
I've never been, but from a distance, like my first impression is like it's the gathering of the goofballs of cycling. So you're a goofball. You're there.
I am now one of the goofballs. Yes, I've been drafted into the goofball collective. But I did meet Sean Kelly in person, which I think was probably worth coming just for that. So I would say Kelly is firmly not in the goofball camp. So
yeah,
that was cool. But it's really, Matt Stevens is like the main presenter of like the stage section of it, which is not as centrally focused as I thought it would be. The stage is kind of in the back. It's hard to find. But late last night, Tom Pidcock goes up on stage with Matt Stevens. And Matt Stevens is like the mensch of all mensches. He's just like great guy, good vibes. You do an interview with Matt Stevens because you want yourself to look good. Generally is how I would think about it. So, and Stevens even comes out before the event and says basically nothing interesting is going to happen here because Tom Pidcock can't talk about the situation with Ineos. I feel like we talk about this every week. This show might as well just be called the Tom Pidcock versus Ineos situation podcast. But he comes out and kind of qualifies it and says nothing. We're not going to say anything about that. Tom can't talk about that. And what's interesting is there's Ineos. There's the director of performance operations, Karsten Jepsen, Scott Drawer, head of performance, and then an Ineos press officer in attendance, which I kind of immediately think is like kind of interesting. Like, why are they here? Maybe they just want to enjoy the event. It's fun. It's in East London. There's beers on tap. Like, obviously that's a good time. Maybe they just want to have a good time, but it's like, well, do they just want to keep an eye on them? What's happening here? He goes up on stage. They're going through the year. The first thing I found interesting is Pidcock says that he doesn't enjoy the tour. He's not enjoyed it the 2 times he's done it, and says that he only says was targeting the GC at the tour because it's, quote, and this is Daniel Benson wrote down the quotes. He was also there, an actual journalist, unlike myself. So I want to credit Benson for writing this down. I'm reading what he said or reading what he wrote. It is what I needed to say, which is kind of an odd quote that makes it sound like he's just trying to appease people at the team. But then there's a question where Matt Stevens asks him if he was in a happier place in terms of clarity and purpose moving forward, kind of in reference to the change in staff that's come about, which we've at least insinuated on this show is due to Pidcock wanting different people in charge of the team. And he responds, I talked to a communications professional earlier in the day, Johan, and he suggested that's where you just say something nice, no matter what the situation is. Instead, Tom Pidcock says no. In fact, he's not in a happier place in terms of clarity and purpose moving forward. I immediately thought that was like very strange, actually. I don't know. Like, it seemed like Stevens was serving it up, and Matt Stevens kind of tried to like make levity of it and move forward. But I thought that really stuck out to me. And then the next thing is he said that he never watched his road racing stuff back, that he only watched his mountain bike videos back. Kind of seemed like he didn't like road racing at all. He was lamenting that modern cyclists don't get a break and it's all go all the time. I was thinking to myself, this kind of seems like a nice time to take a break, but I guess he's here promoting a brand. But Johan, I walked away from it thinking I have doubts actually about Tom Pidcock's not future, but just I did not think that this comes easy to him versus someone like Tadej Pogačar, who it feels like he's having a great time all the time at the road events. But what are your thoughts on learning of this? Do you feel better or worse about Tom Pidcock's future at Ineos?
I feel the same. I think, well, first of all, listen, given the situation and given the problems there's been and all kinds of controversial stuff that has been said, I'm surprised he's there and that he's actually on stage being interviewed. He has absolutely no obligation to do that. So, my first guess would be that he wanted to be interviewed. Otherwise, if you're in that situation, it's better just, he hasn't commented anymore after his, deselection from the Tour of Lombardy. And he was at the first team gathering and he hasn't made any comments about it. The fact that he's up there on stage, and I would guess that, and Stevens is professional enough, they have gone over the questions.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking, my first thought is, okay, Pidcock wanted to be asked these questions and he wanted to give that answer. Otherwise, it makes no sense to me. People from Ineos in the crowd, Japesen and the communication manager and the other guy. I don't know if they were worried about what he was going to say, but it seems to me from a distance, I don't know Pidcock. I have no personal relationship with him or anybody close to him. It seems to me like it's a guy who's going to say whatever he wants to say. It's not the first time he makes, like strong statements and, certain controversial, not controversial, but, we all remember, after Pogačar's demonstration in Strade Bianche, they asked him, what did you think when you saw him go? And he said, what the fuck? And the next question was, well, what would you want to say to Pogačar after this victory? And he goes, what the fuck? and so my takeaway would be, first of all, he's still on Ineos and it looks like he's going to stay at Ineos, whether he wants it or not. There's probably a big part of him who doesn't want to go but be at Ineos, but then on the other side, he has this huge contract and he's not going to get anywhere close to what he's making at Ineos anywhere else. So that's why he's staying, obviously. And then, if you're Tom Pidcock and we all listen, first of all, let's say there's no discussion about his talent, right? He's super talented. He's one of the 3-4, top 5 most talented people in pro cycling. There's no discussion about that at all. And he's obviously paid accordingly for his talent and his potential, not for what he's done, but what he may do in the future. That's at least how I see it. I personally think the big issue here is Tom Pidcock himself and his personality. He's a great rider. He's a winner. He doesn't enjoy racing when he's not in for the win. That makes sense for somebody like that. But he also needs to realize that professional road cycling is a team sport, and you're part of a team. No matter how good you are, no matter how much of a winner you are part of a team, and you need a team. That's probably why he's more at ease in mountain biking and cyclocross, because that's individual sport. You need a small team around you of people who help you, but in the race, you're on your own. I think that's probably why that's his preferred terrain. Now, of course, there's not in cyclocross and mountain bike, there's not the same contracts as on road cycling. And if it's true that he makes that big contract, then it's only logical that he's on a top team. And there's ups and downs. There's pros and cons to everything for somebody. Okay, you get all this, you get all this nice salary, but there's also obligations. There's obligations to perform. There's obligations to be part of a team, and there's obligations to represent your team. And I think that's being the issue right now with Pidcock and the situation he's in. I'm not going to go as far as saying that he's creating the situation himself, but to me, it starts to look more and more. I'm thinking more and more in that direction, that he's creating this kind of situation himself. He's a champion, and he's focused on winning, and he wants to win. And if you're part of a team, there's things that you need to take into account. It's only a rumor that I've heard, but I think last year or 2 years ago, he went in against the instructions of his team to a mountain bike race in Canada, and that's where it started to be go a bit wrong. So, it have to come from both ways. It's not just from the team that needs to fulfill all the wishes of the cyclist. The cyclist also needs to fulfill the wishes and the instructions and the demands of the team. It's not, it's easy. The cyclists are the stars, of course, and they create a fan base, and they're the personalities who are liked or disliked. And it's easy to hammer on the team and saying, you're not taking care of the rider. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. I'm not saying that what they did for Tour of Lombardy was good. I mean, on the contrary, that was completely, I've never seen this before. And I don't think that was the right way to do it. But to me, it sounds like we don't know really. We only know a little tip of the iceberg. And what comes across, and also after having seen the Netflix, is that Pidcock is a super talent, but he's not an easy guy. And to me, he sounds like, it looks a bit like he's really difficult to manage in a group. And now, if you see what he says on stage publicly, it doesn't even matter if there's team people there or not. He knows it's going to be published, and to me, it looks like it was a bit done on purpose that he makes those strong statements. And of course, he may have said, you were there, so I don't know. He may have said nice things too, but that's not the things that are going to be reflected in the titles of the articles on the cycling websites, right? So. I don't know. It's a strange situation. Listen, it looks like he's going to be on Ineos for 2025, but it doesn't look like it's the perfect atmosphere for him and for the team.
Well, you're right. Stevens is the ultimate professional. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing, and he definitely went over these questions with Pidcock. So Pidcock said that, and the quote I'm looking up is right after that. He said, "I'm not going to lie." So he said, "No, I'm not going to lie." Like, that's deliberate. You don't say that. You don't say that on accident. The whole vibe of the interview, I just walked away thinking, this guy doesn't like road cycling that much, and maybe not just the physical act of riding the road, but as you say, like, it just doesn't seem like he's interested at all in the team aspect of it. And he kept talking about mountain biking, cyclocross, the classics. In the thing I'm connecting, he didn't say this, but I'm connecting it in my head. Like, the classics are the closest to the off-road stuff. And he said, like, I want to focus on those. Did not seem interested in Grand Tours, which I think kind of come closest to, like, where do we see Tadej Pogačar working for his team? It's at the Grand Tours where he's leading people out in the sprints. Have we ever seen Tom Pidcock? Like, does Tom Pidcock ever do that? I can't think of a time when that's happened.
I would think he has done stuff for the team, but it's not in his DNA. He's a winner. He's a leader since the young categories. These guys, that's just when they put a number on, they're in for the win. listen, professional road cycling is different. It's a team sport, and you need, first of all, you need your teammates, but you also need to be able to create a great atmosphere with your teammates and with the staff. And he's not helping himself with these kind of statements.
I mean, on the way to the event, I was thinking, is Ineos overcomplicating it? Should the team just be Pidcock? Like, should he just be their big leader? But then you listen to him and you're like, I don't know how much road he wants to do. Like he's not a guy you can count on for 5 million. Let's just say he's making 5 million pounds, 5 million pounds of production. He's just never going to want to do that. Getting him off the team, I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, is tricky because you're going to have to pay some team. What are you going to have to pay a team? 3 million euros a year to take them? Like, they don't want to do that.
The thing is that Pidcock has a lot of cards in his hands also. I mean, whether he's on Ineos or not, he's damn good at mountain biking and damn good at cyclocross. And he can do that with or without Ineos. That's a given. Going to have the same performances or better, whatever, if he's happier in those two sports. If he's not that interested in the Tour de France, he can find another team where he can do the classics also. Although I still think that Ineos is a pretty good team. It's still, they're obviously not performing anymore to the standards they showed us in the past and we were used to, but it's not a crappy team. It's a super professional team. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. I mean, my question is, the thing that seems to, obviously, the thing that gives him a lot of leverage, other than his incredible, as you say, in mountain biking, the guy is unbelievable at mountain biking. Like this Crans Montana mountain bike race, it was the week before the tour started. You could argue, why is he there? That makes no sense. That was one of the most difficult mountain bike races I've ever seen in my life. And he won it. It was super impressive. But the thing that gives him leverage is this contract through 2027, high dollar amount, high pound amount, high euro amount per year through 2027. Johan, who gave him that deal? That's the original sin right there. That's why they're in this problem. Do you have any insight into who signed that contract?
I think it was still Brailsford. I can't imagine. I don't think that Ellingworth had that kind of power and authority to sign off on that. And I mean, here, listen, hats off to his agent, who negotiated that deal. It's Andrew McQuaid. He did an amazing job for his client. And yeah, I mean, hey, hats off to them. That's an amazing job.
Yeah, that contract should be just an advertisement for Andrew McQuaid. Like, if you're a young cyclist, go find him right now. He will get you hooked up. But the whole thing, I walk away from this feeling, wow, this is way messier than I thought. I kind of thought that they could move past this. Tom Pidcock is a great rider. I thought, wow, there's a path here, and then it does not feel like there's a path at all. I mean,
the fact that he was willing to be interviewed on stage obviously is the sign that he wanted out with those statements. Otherwise, there's no need for Pidcock to be interviewed. Absolutely not. I mean, he's a UK star and it's in the UK, but for him, it doesn't do anything. I mean, you say he was there to promote a brand or something, but if you're in that situation and you're on stage, you put yourself in a vulnerable position that you can be asked questions that you don't want to answer. He obviously wanted to answer those questions.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, if I was a high-level pro, even for me, I'm thinking, I'm getting to meet interesting people, see people that I know. If I was Tom Pidcock, I would just rather be in Ibiza. Like, why am I here? Like, I could be anywhere else in the world. So you're right that he must have wanted to get a message across, and he clearly got it across. I mean, just the last thing I wanted to say about this is like, where is Jonas Vingegaard right now, Johan? Like, do you ever hear about him in the offseason? You don't, because he's at a butterfly garden.
It's a completely different personality. He's training, he's resting, he's spending time with his family, and he's preparing for next season. Jonas is completely different. We clearly see that Jonas doesn't feel comfortable to be in the spotlights and to be on a stage and to be interviewed. we have to respect that. And, his interviews are always quite monotonous, and, he just says the same things, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not his personality. So Vingegaard is thinking about how he can close the gap with Pogačar right now. That's what he's focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, that seems, in terms of production, like being good at riding and having a long career, that kind of seems like the recipe. Just go away, focus on being really, really good, better than you were last year, and don't talk to anyone. I mean, it's not good for your brand. Maybe if you probably shouldn't follow that advice if you want to be a big star in the UK. But that's all I could think about last night is like, wow, like it just feels very hard. It feels like there's a lot of pressure on him. Even Pogačar, who is visible, it does not. You never get the feeling that this is a burden on him. It just feels like it all comes so easy.
Everybody, this episode of The Move Plus is brought to you by Storyworth. The holiday season is coming up fast, and I want to give my loved ones something that makes them feel special and unique, just like the relationship we share. That's why I'm giving everyone I care about Storyworth. I hope they're not listening to this. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved ones thought-provoking questions that you get to help pick. Things like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? What's the furthest you've ever traveled? Or how did you used to get to school when you were young? Storyworth makes the writing process a breeze. All your loved ones need to do is respond to that email with a story, long or short, it doesn't matter. You'll be emailed a copy of your loved one's responses as they're submitted over the course of the year. And at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. I know I want to get this for my father-in-law so that we can keep all of his stories in a nice hardcover book that my kids can keep and refer back to as they grow older. Families love Storyworth. That's why it has more than 35,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love most a thoughtful personal gift from the heart and preserving their memories and stories for years to come. So if this sounds interesting to you, if you're in a pinch and you need a gift, the holidays are coming up fast. Don't forget, go to storyworth.com/themove and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/themove to save $10 on your first purchase. All right, back to the episode.
So moving on, Belgian cycling coaching drama, that you'd be the perfect person to ask about this. Serge Pauwels is the new head coach of Belgian cycling. He was a former assistant coach. Who was passed over? Serge Pauwels. His name is not Philippe Gilbert. Philippe Gilbert is very upset about this, was tweeting, I believe, his disappointment.
Yeah, that was a surprise. Like straight after the news came out, he took it to Instagram, I think. Gilbert had been vocal about him being interested in the position. He had actually asked for some talks. There were talks with him and the Belgian Federation, but they chose to somebody who was already on board. So Pauwels was the assistant of Van Toornout, and also he was the head coach of the Belgian junior team. Obviously, he's already on board. He knows the system in the federation, and I think there's a few things to consider. I was surprised to see Gilbert voicing his discontent, his disappointment straight away publicly. It's not because you're Philippe Gilbert that you're entitled to have that position. I would actually argue, I personally think, first of all, Pauwels makes sense. They know his word within the federation, and most likely, it seems that Belgian cycling is cutting down on costs a lot. So Pauwels has been a good professional cyclist, won some races, was on good teams. He was on Team Sky, by the way, also. Seems to get along really well with all the young riders. And more importantly, I think he's not that expensive. Gilbert would come with a huge price tag, or at least that would be his ambition. That's one thing to consider, which obviously, if Belgian cycling is cutting costs and even not wanting to pay any bonuses anymore for medals. They're not going to put a huge contract for Gilbert. But for me personally, and I'm speaking from experience, somebody who's been a champion, a huge champion cyclist, which we can say Gilbert was a huge champion. He's been world champion. He's been, he won 4 of the 5 monuments. He won a bunch of races. So obviously a huge champion, a great athlete. Usually they're not great coaches. Usually these guys are not a great coach because for them, of course, they have the talent. They're great workers, hard workers, but it's difficult for somebody who's been a great champion to put themselves in the position of a normal cyclist, which the majority of the guys you have to deal with are just, normal, good cyclists, but not super champions. So it's not because you're so-and-so that you're going to be a great coach. Quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't like this idea that, you were a great Belgian cyclist, so you should be the Belgian cycling coach. That's often actually how bad coaching decisions are made. Mm-hmm. So what you say about the money makes a lot of sense. Serge Pauwels was a pro for 15 years. I doubt he was ever making anywhere near what Philippe Gilbert was. If Belgian cycling is cutting costs, that's just, they're not going to want to pay what Gilbert wants to make. But Johan, 16 pro wins I see on Pro Cycling Stats, Tour de France stage. What about yourself? Great cyclist, 2 Tour de France stages, great coach.
I have more than that. I have more than 16 pro cycling.
Yeah, there's a lot of gaps on Pro Cycling Stats 36 in the older days.
36.
36.
Yeah.
How do you explain this? Great cyclist, great coach.
I cannot be a coach because I'm banned for life, courtesy to USADA and WADA. So, and then I think my time has passed anyway. It's different cycling, different generations. So I would never even think about that kind of position. But I mean, coming back to the Gilbert situation, I mean, Van Avermaet was apparently also a candidate. They didn't consider him either. I think it's well thought of, and obviously they've seen things in Serge Pauwels that they like, and let's not forget, working with sports federations, that's not easy. There's a lot of, it's not like you're running a team. If you're the manager or the director of a team, you're calling the shots. You're deciding a lot of things. Federations, it works differently. You're not deciding anything except when you're in the race, and in the races that you're the coach, there's almost no communication with the riders because radio communication is not.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Nah. I don't think it. What Gilbert says, and I don't know if that's true or not. He said that he never had a chance because it was always going to be somebody from inside, so he was never considered seriously. Then the president of the Belgian Cycling Federation, Tom van Damme, has refuted that, said that they did consider it, that they did have talks, and that they just chose for what for them seemed to be the best option that made most sense. End of story.
I mean, if you're Belgian cycling, who would you rather deal with? Serge Pauwels, who's made like a lot with a little for a long time, or Greg Van Avermaet or Philippe Gilbert? I mean, it kind of seems like the obvious choice. Like, you don't want some superstar.
They're 2 different personalities also. I think Van Avermaet is more easygoing, also a big champion, but I'm personally placing Gilbert on a higher level as an athlete than Van Avermaet. They were both really good, but Gilbert, I think, has accomplished more. But I think the personality also, the ego of Gilbert is bigger than the one of Van Avermaet, and definitely multiplied bigger than the one from Serge Pauwels. And the federation knows that.
Should we cut that?
Oh, we shouldn't. I'm not afraid to say it.
But
as you know, Spencer, I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, and it's also the purpose of this show.
What is the lingual? I guess you're right. Wow, I didn't realize how many more wins Gilbert had. Wow, then Greg but never met. Yeah. I guess there was that point in time. What was that? It must have been 09 to 10 to 11 where he swept the Classic. He swept the Ardennes. I mean, he was winning everything for a while. But what's the lingual situation in the Belgian national team? Is it mainly Flemish, mainly French? Do the French speakers just learn to speak French?
Yeah, but that's
Flemish?
not,
It doesn't matter.
Gilbert speaks both languages. I mean, he's from Wallonia. So, he's, his mother tongue is French, but he speaks perfect Flemish. So it's not a problem. He could communicate perfectly. It's not an issue.
Okay. So yeah, it's probably just money. If we're being completely honest, they just, what's going on there? Is that just like responsible belt tightening, or is there actual money crunch?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just know what I read, and it's kind of, the fact that they're cutting down the bonuses. And of course, if you have good riders, a lot of good riders, you need to make provisions and you have to be careful. But yeah, I think things are tight. There's been, all the coaches have left, which is very, very unique, very strange.
Yeah, it is very strange. Next up, speaking of coaches, Tadej Pogačar says he wants to be better in 2025 than 2024. Is this possible? Should we just stop podcasting now? Like, what does that look like? He said
that he always wants to improve, and then he hopes 2025 he's stronger than 24. So obviously that means that he still feels that he's making progress. But I think everybody makes progress.
That's true.
Jonas is going to try to be on a higher level, and Remco is going to try to be on a higher level. So there's no reason why Pogačar wouldn't try to be on a higher level. Now, if he still improves, it's going to be like 100% win, or I don't know. I don't know what.
I guess. Well, here on a serious note, I guess the obvious thing, it's just that we're thinking about it, would be another monument. So it'd be like Roubaix, or it would be the third Grand Tour.
Yeah, I think what he's going for, I think is he made it quite public. He wants to get Milan-San Remo. I think the way his planning is now, that's probably the monument that fits best into his schedule. He's not been official about it, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to do the Giro. And to me, it looks like he's going to go for the Vuelta. I think he wants to tick off the Vuelta as soon as possible. Then he has all three already at this young age. So, but yeah, getting better. Listen, his team gets better, stronger. There's, I think the quality that's coming in is probably at least equal or better than whoever's leaving. He's getting more and more experience also, and it looks like things at UAE are being more and more perfected. There's going to come a time where this stops. Now they're still riding the upward wave. At some point, it's going to stop, and other teams are going to catch up. But for the moment, they have the snowball effect of Pogačar's success, and everything seems to work. And then we're in cycling. Who knows? Look at Visma this year. Last year, they won everything. They won the 3 big tours, and everything seemed to work. And this year, nothing seemed to work. So it's next year everybody starts with a clean slate and starts from zero.
Yeah, I was going to say in 2030, when you're a featured guest at Ruler Live, Juan Ayuso will be there being asked what happened to UAE. Why aren't they good anymore? A new feature just came out about it, but There was an interesting thing in this, the latest Ineos Escape Collective piece, saying basically UAE hires people that are really smart, like really good cycling coaches. And Ineos does sometimes feel like they overcomplicate that. Obviously, they hired Tim Kerrison. This was like back in 2011, I believe, who was a swimming coach. That worked out fantastic. I don't think that could have worked out any better. So clearly, Tim Kerrison knew what he was doing when it came to cycling training. But it does kind of feel like they've tried to replicate that to their own detriment at times. Like maybe just hire people that are smart at cycling and can train cyclists. And that's what UAE does. Like they just hire these people that are fantastic cycling minds, and it works out for them and they get better. Do you think it's possible? I'm not saying this would make any sense, especially in terms of team politics. Could someone win 3 Grand Tours in the same season? Could Pogačar have done that this year if he did the Vuelta?
I think it's a stretch. It's a stretch. It's not just the physical, it's the mental pressure, and also having a team for all these 3 races around the leader. That's the biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge. It's doable. It's possible. Right now, if there's one guy who can do it, it's Tadej Pogačar. I don't know if it's going to come to a point where he's going to risk it. I mean, if he wins the Vuelta and if he wins all the monuments, then maybe that's something that you say, okay, now what should I do to be Mr. Spectacular? and then maybe he goes for the 3 Grand Tours. But I think first of all, winning all 3, that's his first goal, and it may well be that that's the way it stays. I don't think it's a great idea actually to try that.
To me, it kind of feels like if you went to a restaurant and tried to eat everything on the menu, it's like, even if that was an accomplishment, would you really want to do it? It just seems miserable. Yeah. Like I think it's something the media kind of wants more than any cyclist would want to do. And you're right a bit. Like he's got to win San Remo and Roubaix first. Those are not going to be easy wins to come by. I think he said he would die trying to win Milano San Remo. So clearly he wants to do it. It's very difficult to do. It's not like the other monuments where there's any sort of place where you can just leverage being better than everybody else. And then still has Roubaix to do. So he
needs to be really a lot stronger than the others, and still on the Poggio, to get that gap, that's not easy. I mean, he can get it, but then, you need to also risk your life in the downhill.
Yeah.
He could also win in the sprint. Who knows? With a little group.
I think that's probably the path there, to win it in a sprint, or make it. Probably the move is you make it hard on the Cipressa. I think the mistake they made this year was it was too hard, too fast. They dropped themselves, and then they couldn't make it hard in between. I think you have to keep it like full on in between the Cipressa and the Poggio, so the faster riders can't recover, and then you out sprint them at the end. If they were asking for advice, that's the advice I'd give. Like, don't ever let that. I mean, it was so slow between those 2 climbs this year. I think Pidcock was peeing, off the bike. Like, that's too slow. It's got to be faster than that you can't stop and take a pee.
Yeah, I mean, San Remo is difficult. And for a rider like Pogačar, it's one of the most complicated ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think it used to be the most boring classic. It's now the most interesting one because Pogačar can't just solo out the front. It's like oddly become modern. It's become the best modern race because it's almost so old school that it's not hard enough just to ride away from everybody. But before we get into the questions, Astana, we talked about it a few weeks ago. I was wondering, where's the money? They've missed they missed like a, what do they call that? The UCI security,
registration deadline.
Yeah. And now it seems official that the name, we were trying to figure out the name of this company, I guess is XDS Carbon Tech from Shenzhen, China, owns the team or is co-owner of the team and is also sponsored the team.
They're going to be with a Chinese license. I just read today. So obviously I think the Kazakhs are probably going to try to sell the license.
Smart. It's a smart move if that's what they're doing.
Well, it's great for them. It's great for the Kazakhs, but it's strange that a company with that kind of leverage would buy a license, which is only for 1 year, because 2026, Astana is not going to be in the World Tour anymore. A miracle would need to happen in terms of results to score enough points to get back into that race for the 18 spots. They're still going to be doing all the big races, because I expect they're going to be first or second in the second tier classification, where Lotto Destiny and Israel Premier Tech were this year. So it looks like these two teams are going to be promoted. But Astana is not going to be in the World Tour anymore. So I don't know what the strategy is there. Obviously, what is it? XDS Carbon Tech. They're apparently a huge manufacturer of carbon frames. So they want to put their name on the map and also promote their own bikes. So Wheelier is out. They're going to be riding XDS bikes. And from what I've heard, they're producing for quite a bit of brands. So I'm not worried that that's going to be a setback. The most interesting thing I've read is that they doubled the budget. Now, then my second question is, let's say Astana is probably, I would say around 20 million right now. If XDS Astana is 40 million, then my question is, where does the money go to? There's no really expensive riders, so obviously they're gonna want to hire better riders in the future. But right now, if it's next year, if the budget is double, then somebody must have a great deal on the table or under the table, which would also not be strange in those cultures.
Vinokurov's getting paid 20 million more euros a year. That's where the budget's going. I know, with stuff like that, I'm always, you always want to be careful. I wonder if the information was like, we have an aim to double the budget in the future. Yeah, that must be what.
There is no way. There is no way that XDS Astana next year is running a 40 million budget. There's no way.
No, it would have to be that Vinokurov's just making a lot of money if that's the case.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm doing some math actually. So since we brought this up, actually, you brought this up like an hour ago when we were talking, but so it seems weird that they're buying a team destined. I'm looking at the relegation rankings. They really can't save themselves. So they're going to get relegated. And then you start to think, well, is that so bad to be a relegated team? Because all you have to be is the second best second division team, and you get a free pass basically to every race. If you're the third best, you get a free pass to all the one-day races. You don't get a free pass to the Grand Tours. They really just have to be better than Arkea, because Arkea is also going to be relegated. Uno X won't make it. So Uno X actually could be harder, though, to be better than. So can they be better than Arkea this coming year? That's the big question.
What about Tudor?
Tudor, that's a good question. Well, they scored more points than Tudor, 1,000 more points basically than Tudor this year.
Yeah, but Tudor has
I guess they have Hershey.
They have Hershey. They have Alaphilippe. There's another guy who went there.
Is the answer to this problem signing Tom Pidcock? That actually solves a lot of Astana's problems. And where does the budget they're talking about go? I mean, that would be the move.
It would be for any brand, and especially a bike manufacturer. Having Tom Pidcock is like the golden ticket. He will race all your bikes, and he will be top of the world on all your bikes.
Yeah, put him on a Strider. He'll be out there at the kids' event mopping up. I mean, you say, like, why are they doing this? We pulled up their website. I'm looking at it right now. It looks like and I say this with all due respect, I would love to go to your factory, XDS. Invite me out to Shenzhen. I'll be there. It looks a little fake. So if they're trying,
that's typical. That's typical for those Chinese bike manufacturer websites. I know in the past I've been doing some research there and been there a few times. That's not a red flag. It's typical.
It might be hard, and there might not be other teams for sale. Like if you think about it, like what are their other options? Like Arkea would be.
There are teams that are for sale. There are teams that are for sale for sure.
Do you think better than Astana? Because Astana is actually not.
No, 100% better than Astana.
Like,
I'm not going to say
Intermarché. Shake your head.
There are teams that are better than Astana that would be willing to sell if the price is right.
What do you think Astana sold for?
And it doesn't cost 20 million. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah, I guess 20 million extra. What do you think they sold it for? Assuming that happened.
Well, I mean, it can't be that much because it gives you nothing. Well, that's the thing about the licenses in cycling, right? I mean, if you have a license for 2 more years, you can say, okay, well, this is worth so much. We have the sponsors already committed, we have the riders committed, and we have these guaranteed entrances to all these events. That's worth something. In Astana's case, it's not. They almost have no sponsorship except of the new Chinese money because the Kazakhs want to pay less and less. They don't have any good riders or not top riders, and they have no more guarantee to ride these races unless they can use the system and be first or second. But what you buy is a structure and some vehicles, buses, trucks, and some cars. That's it. There's nothing else. That's the weakness of the way professional cycling is structured. The economic model is messed up because there's no value. If you lose your sponsorship, you're done. Any other team, whether it's a baseball team or a football team or a soccer team over here, they have value. They own a stadium. They have a fan base. If they lose sponsors, if Real Madrid, I'm saying Real Madrid because I live in Madrid, so if they lose their title sponsor for their jersey, it's not a problem at all. They can just go on. They find another sponsor, and even if it's less, it's only a tiny bit of their income because the income is in TV rights and tickets and merch. So it's completely different. Cycling is still, as of today, 90% dependent on sponsorship. And if your sponsor doesn't renew your contract, you're done.
I guess the only thing I would push back on there, I generally agree with you. The only thing I would push back on is let's say they're buying it this year. You are buying the last year of the World Tour license. So like rally cycling, I watched them for years, like bang their head against the wall. You basically can't get the race invites to score enough points to even have a chance to get wildcard invites. So if you figure, well, we'll buy a team with 1 year left on its license, at least we get to go to all the races and we have a chance to score the points to finish in the top 2 of the second division teams. And then they have to take us the next year. That would be the one asset that you're buying, that you get a seat at the table.
They're buying 1 year. They're buying 1 year. And then normally they're buying another year, which would be guaranteed 2026. Guaranteed to be 1 or 2 in the second tier division, but they're not buying 3 years of guarantee. They're not buying an extra 3 years of guarantee. They'll have to fight for it every year. Whereas if you're a World Tour team, you have 3 years of guaranteed.
Yeah. So basically, they have to be really good next year, and then really good every year for the next 3 years, and then maybe they'll be World Tour again. It is a little. It's kind of bleak, but it's better than starting your own team, especially if you're Chinese.
It's not the worst option, but I think there's better options.
Reach out to Johan Bruyneel for better options if you want to buy a team. He's got a lead on them. So the first question, and again, if you want these read, info@wedo.team. I was just reading Daniel from Queensland. That's who this is from. As a cycling fan since the early 2000s, I have very fond memories of the tours, team time trials from that era. One of my all-time favorite stages is the 2005 team time trial, which memory serves was over 60 kilometers long and was an absolute nail-biter between Discovery, Johan's team, and CSC, with the two teams trading intermediate splits and a final winning margin of 3 seconds. That's crazy, by the way, if that's true. Dave Zabriskie was in the yellow jersey and famously crashed within sight of the line to hand the jersey to Lance Armstrong for the first time that tour, which he refused to wear the following day, given the unfortunate circumstances of inheriting it, until ASO forced it on him. I would love to hear if Johan has any recollections of that stage. This is a two-part question, so just don't answer that yet. Also, as a wrap-up for the year, it would be great to hear your best and worst strategy, moments, decisions from this season, positive or negative. But first, answer that. This is crazy, by the way. I had forgot about in this stage.
Yeah, that I remember that team time trial for sure. It was very fast. I think I don't know, but it was close to 60 kilometers per hour. I think.
Was it raining?
No, it wasn't raining. It wasn't raining, but it was super fast. And of course we had the split time, so I knew it was going to be tight. I don't think that the victory of Discovery was thanks to the crash of Zabriskie, because there were still, 5 or 6 guys crossing the finish line, but it was super tight. So yeah, I do remember that. Of course, we were very happy to win it. We had, I think it was the 3rd or the 4th time we won the team time trial in the tour. And I do remember, of course, the incident of the day after where Lance said, okay, I didn't really get it fair and square, so I'm not going to wear the jersey. And then the tour said, well, you have to wear it, which, but listen, they can do whatever they want. They're the boss. So if they threaten you, because they were threatening him of disqualifying him. So of course you don't want that. So he went to the start line with the Discovery jersey, and I think they delayed the start, and he was forced to put on the yellow jersey.
Did Jean-Marie LeBlanc come out and wrestle the jersey?
Jean-Marie LeBlanc. It was Jean-Marie LeBlanc who forced him to wear it. Yeah.
I guess they sold the sponsorship.
Exactly. Crédit Lyonnais was the title sponsor, though they want to be. You can't have a race with Crédit Lyonnais not in the pack for the whole stage. That's just so they were thinking about their sponsors.
It's smart. That's fun. That is funny. I remember, but it was fine. It was not so. I mean, it's not stressful because it was all done in at the start line in the neutral zone, so it was fine. It was fine. Second part of the question was best and worst memories of strategic decisions during this season. Yes.
Okay. Well, strategic decisions, if we look at the season has been dominated by Pogačar. There was not much strategy. He just won because he was the strongest and annihilated everybody with every single attack. So the worst decision, or one of the, I mean, I'm not going to say a bad decision, but not a smart decision that comes up straight away would be the gravel stage of the Tour de France and the several attacks of Remco Evenepoel with like 80K to go together with Pogačar. Pogačar was participating in it, but I think Remco attacked himself. And I remember thinking back then, I said, what are you doing? It's 80K to go. You're not going anywhere. Even if you get a gap now on this gravel section, they're going to get organized. Jonas, of course, I remember Jonas had a mechanical. He was on the bike of someone else, on Tratnik's bike. but he had teammates around him, so they were not going anywhere. So I thought that was not a very smart move. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of others, but just like straight off the top of my mind, I would say that was not a smart move. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I think we would have to look at probably some classics. Great strategy was, I would say, Milan-San Remo, for example, where Van der Poel was reeling in Pogačar and then sacrificed every single one of his chances for his teammate Jasper Philipsen to keep it together, and Philipsen winning Milan-San Remo. That was strategically a great race from Van der Poel and Philipsen and Alpecin.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do vividly remember that. And maybe the answer is just Van der Poel's a team player. He's kind of he's kind of like a de facto owner of that team. Like,
yeah, he is a team player, a real team player.
It's all kind of coming back to our original topic of Tom Pidcock. But does he do that just because it's right for the team and he thinks that is the right thing to do? Or do you think he's making some calculus of like, if I help Philipsen here, then he'll help me at Roubaix?
They're also great friends. They're great friends. They get along really well. I personally didn't see Philipsen going anywhere else, although there's been some doubts about him getting other offers. And at the end of the day, he gets paid really well and he stays there because there's a few key figures in that team that, and I'm talking about Van der Poel, Philipsen, and then the Roothoofd brothers, who have this unique bond, which is the soul of the team. So, but yeah, Van der Poel is an amazing team player. Whenever he sees that he doesn't have a chance to win, he's there for the others. It's just amazing to see.
He is. It kind of feels like it comes naturally to him.
It's his team. It's his team. I don't know if he has co-ownership or not. He definitely has interest in the team, and he signed the 2028, I guess, right? So probably till the end of his career. Whatever happens after that, we don't know. But yeah, ultimate team player for such a big rider.
It's super impressive. I mean, I guess the other side is he gets freedom, but
yeah,
he definitely has been given at least emotional ownership of the team, and he really takes it on with two hands. It's really impressive. Second question: This person did their homework. I'm sorry, I don't have their name. I pulled it from like our online forum where people send in questions and didn't come up with a name. But Tadej versus Jonas. I mentioned, I think it was last week or the week before, that the time margins between them are it's like 2 seconds if you add up every tour they've done against each other. Time margins aside, the determining factor in this fantastic battle is in the last 84 stages, 4 years, how many times has one taken actual time off the other? In the last 4 tours, Jonas has won 4 stages and has only taken time off Tadej on 5 occasions. 4 occasions if this year's stage 11 is one of the 5, given that this was a 1 second bonus, not an actual time difference. In the last 4 tours, Tadej has won 17 stages and taken time off Jonas on 20 different occasions over 4 years. In the 84 stages to date, there have been 25 occasions where there's been time gains by one over the other, so close to 30% of all stages. Even if we accredit 5 time gains to Jonas to Jonas, the telling factor is that on 80% of those 25 occasions, Tadej has prevailed over Jonas, and much more so in 2024. Injury and form aside, that's a stat that Jonas needs to be able to turn around to do. So Visma is going to need to take it to UAE rather than riding conservatively and hoping UAE and Tadej will falter. While still impulsive, there's no doubt Tadej matured in 2024. My bet is that he will show even greater maturity in 2025, knowing he doesn't need to chase larger time gains unless Tadej beats himself, and Visma and Jonas will now need to take huge risks if they are to attempt to nullify him. Then there's the scary bit. Who's to say he won't continue improving? To go back to our topic earlier. I'm curious to get your take on this, Johan. I will say first, I do think the fact that Jonas hasn't taken as much I don't know what we should refer to this as, like time occurrences on Tadej, is because that's part of the Visma plan. They sit back and let him make mistakes, knowing that it works in their favor. Obviously, if Tadej stops doing that, that is a big problem for everybody. But I would like to get your take on this.
I think you're right, Spencer. They're completely different types of riders. Also, they race differently. And listen, let's not forget, Jonas had this horrible accident in April. The fact that he was at the start of the tour was a miracle. The fact that he was in that kind of shape is an even bigger miracle. On the other hand, we also know that the year before, Pogačar had an accident, broke his wrist. Not the same kind of injury, but also a very faulty preparation for the tour. So I've said it many times, Spencer, in a lot of different podcasts. I keep saying that Pogačar's worst enemy is himself. If he gets control of racing properly, conservatively, with precaution, he's close to unbeatable. Let's look at the World Championships, for example, right? So he won the World Championships, amazing. I've never seen before, attacking with 100K to go. But it could have been that he almost didn't win, because it was at some point he was starting to reach his limit, and then we've seen his interview afterwards saying that he was kind of running out of gas. And these kind of efforts, I mean, it's amazing to see that on TV or witness it in person even more. But that's not really what I would recommend for a guy like Pogačar, and that's what I think that's what Visma and Jonas are hoping for, that he keeps trying to put up these big shows and at some point is going to make a mistake and then pay the price. If it's not on the day, then maybe the day after, right? So I would guess that bit by bit they also start to. I think Pogačar is a bit. It's not the same character, but it's a bit. There's a bit of the same characteristics like Pidcock. He's not very manageable. In a good way, But
yeah.
If I put my director's hat on, and I have this kind of beast on a bike that can win any race, the job of the coach and the director and the trainer is to keep the beast in the cage and only open the cage whenever it matters, because that's how you win 3-week races. With him, it's different. You can't keep the door closed on the cage. He just needs to be out. And, I know it's not a popular answer, but if you look at it from a purely managing team perspective, that's what I would recommend. Be a bit more conservative and win, but win many times with a minimal effort. That's you're going to be able to do it a lot longer.
I will say in defense of his, I agree with you that I do think his biggest enemy is himself. When the World Championships case, he was running out of teammates quite quickly since he wasn't with UAE and he was with Slovenia. If he waits, is he, you remember this from the Cancellara years, is he just then stuck with a bunch of rivals who he can't drop, he can't out sprint. And we've all seen that movie before. So there is a reality where he recognized ooh, I'm running out of teammates. This could get sticky for me inside 50K to go. I'll just go now. If I get caught, I get caught, but I'm probably not going to win if I stay put. But then again, maybe he's good enough. He could have dropped everybody with 70K to go or 50K to go.
Yeah, I think so. But then, against that, I would argue, Spencer, that there's been a lot of feedback from that race, from Pogačar himself, from Tratnik, that this was not the plan. And he was all of a sudden, he did something and he said, oh shit, what did I do? I'm gone now. Now what?
Yeah. It did.
Go ahead.
It did seem like he thought that some of those guys would stay with him.
Oh yeah. You want to, that's the strategy, right? I mean, if you're running out of teammates, you try to make a selection and you try to get ahead with all the other leaders. And then it's a race of man against man. I think that was his plan, but the fact that nobody could follow him, he was there. And man, 100K to go, that's, and the fact that I don't know if you saw his quote, he said, the car came next to me because they can't talk on radio. And he asked how many laps there were left, not being sure that it was the last lap. So that's how cross-eyed he was. And he said, if he would have said 2 instead of 1, I would have been done. But he didn't really have an idea of if it was really the last lap. So he went, sometimes it may look like it's easy, but he goes full gas. He empties himself.
Yeah. I wonder if in a race like that, where you don't have your trade teams, if that's the right move, though. If you're the best rider and you're the best rider, should you just make it basically, what do they say? Like, if you have the largest lungs in the room, lower the oxygen so everyone else dies. Like, if he's fucked with it, then everyone else must be screwed and they can't chase him down.
On that course, Spencer, on the course of Zurich, there's been a lot of talks before the race that it was going to be very hard, and it was very hard, but it was still an advantage to be in a group and working together behind than being out there on your own. And that actually even enhances the performance. The greatness of the performance of Pogačar, what he did there on that course, right? But yeah, everybody was dead, so didn't matter in the end.
Well, this next question, I've actually wondered this myself, titled Nature Breaks. Is there a special zipper in the bibs these days for the guys so they can take a nature break? Also, how do women take a nature break? Are there some areas set up with a bunch of porta potties for them? Or is this a factor in keeping women's races shorter? And nature breaks are going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Well, no, there's no zippers at all.
Are you sure? I swear I see people. Do you think the skin suits zip up from the bottom?
There's okay. I know what you mean. There are skin suits. There, first of all, there's a typical 2-piece, right? So cycling bibs and shorts and top, which nowadays a lot of people don't wear anymore. And then you have the skin suit, of course, that makes nature breaks super complicated. And then you have the mix. So that's what you mean. So it's a skin suit. But the top opens separately. It's like a jersey which is attached to a pants, but it's one. So basically, once you open that zipper, then you still have the bib, which is not the same as it would be a skin suit. It's so that makes it easier. But no, there's no zipper. The way it works is basically you either stop when there's a general consensus amongst the peloton. When, for example, the first breakaway of the day goes and there's an agreement. Okay, let's all stop, or whoever wants to stop stops and comes back easily. Then the other way is do it off the bike. Whether you want to be pushed by a teammate or not, that's your own decision. Then it gets a bit technical. So normally what you would do is you would wait until there's a slight downhill where you almost don't have to pedal. And then very importantly, you have to go to the side of the road and especially look the direction of the wind. So you're basically on the bike doing what you have to do, but looking where the wind comes from, because if you're on the wrong side, whatever you let go either can be go in your face or in the face of your rivals. So there's no special zip as far as I know. And the question about the women's cycling, actually, good question. I've never thought about that. So races do tend to be shorter. We all know that. So there are less hours on the bike, but I'm pretty sure that there are some cyclists that need to take a nature break. And so we'd have to ask Mary or Ali. I don't really know. I don't really know how that works. I mean, they can stop on the side of the road somewhere, but they would have to hide where there's bushes or whatever, or trees. I don't know. And I don't have the answer to that question.
I remember like it was from like a training camp. If you remember Kristen Armstrong, she was like a great American cyclist.
I know who she is. Yeah, of course I know who she is.
And she was like, took a pee break at a training camp and then said to the director, like, I don't want the younger girls to see me doing that because I want them to be used to holding it. And that did kind of make me think like maybe they're not going to the bathroom during the races. Mm-hmm. Like if it's that much of a point of emphasis on the special zippers. Maybe I'm misremembering this, but I used to work at the Pros Closet, which sold, when it was like an actual Pros Closet, it bought gear from teams, from pro teams, and then sold it to regular people. And the BMC clothing, they would have these skin suits that did have like special nature break zippers, I guess would be the best way to describe it. But it's the only ones I've ever seen like that. It was like 2 years of their skin suits had that. So yeah, we'd have to ask like Tour Hushoff or something about that.
Maybe a tight skin suit before there was I mean, I think nowadays we see a lot of riders riding with this hybrid skin suit, right? Which is like
I think like Castelli was the first one to come out with that. Yeah, which makes it kind of makes a lot more sense. But no, I thought that was an interesting question about the women's. I had honestly never really thought about that either. I guess you could make it work if you had to, but now I'm curious about the race distances. Is that why the distances are slightly shorter? I'll send a
picture. I have a picture somewhere of like a funny picture about riders taking a nature break and others pushing. I'll send it on the group chat, or if we want to put it in the podcast here after it's edited, we can put it in there too. It's funny.
You got to make sure that the wind is right. That's a very good point, Johan. But
oh yeah, and a slight downhill if it's possible.
Yeah. Don't do it on that uphill. That's not going to work
because you can't pedal, right? So you need to basically stop pedaling and then figure it out.
And I had a teammate that would practice on group rides. And I'm like, that's actually a good idea. You don't want to make sure it's the race on the Just feel bad for everyone else in the group ride. But that are all the questions for the week. info@wedo.team if you want to send one in for next week. And we will talk to you later if you don't have anything else to share, Johan.
Okay, Spencer, enjoy the rest of your stay at Rouleur and let me know if there's any scoops you get.
All right, we'll do.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.